sermon series about money. I'll just prepare you. It's all about money. I got a little excited. I got in the swing of things about money. We got all the money on the altar and everything like that. Going into a sermon, the question is always, you look towards Jesus and Jesus' example on how to live your life, right? So I've been holding on to this clip for like a month waiting to show it to you. Go. What would Jesus do, guys? Come on, that's funny. No? Oh, man. I thought it was really funny. It's on an automatic loop. I don't know why. We can just watch Jesus return the card all day long. Apparently, Jesus would shop at Target. I don't know. All right. I've been getting that pity laugh all morning. Maybe I was the only one who thought it was funny. That is one way to look at it when you're approaching any topic, is that you want to look at what Jesus would do. The topic of money is particularly difficult, right? Every time, it's usually this time of year, we talk about money in the church. Lots of people do like an inward groan when I say we're going to talk about money. Oh man, that means she's going to ask for money. That's right. Oh man, darn. I hate that. Actually, when we talk about money in the church, it's so much bigger than just money. So over the next few weeks, we're doing this sermon series called Earn, Save, Give. I got to get it right. Sometimes I get it wrong. Earn, save, give. But this week, we're just opening up the idea of talking about money and talking about, is it really more money that we need? It's actually not. We don't need more money. We need more wisdom. So the first thing that I always like to do when we talk about money is to define the difference between a tithe and an offering. So I know you've heard those words thrown around because I say them every single week. Right after I give the sermon, let's continue our time of worship through the giving of tithes and offerings. Do you ever wonder if that's just kind of redundant? Like, why does she say tithes and offerings? It's like the same thing, right? There's a subtle difference between the two. So tithing, that's the one that you read about in Scripture, and it says give 10%, right? 10% to me, I don't know. I don't know the exact reason. I'm not even going to pretend that I researched the exact reason why it's 10%. But to me, 10% is a significant portion of our finances, right? If you walked into a store and it said 10% off everything in the store, you'd be a little bit excited about that, right? No. You guys are like, 50%. I might get excited about that, right? But I know that if I walked in and everything was 10% off, if I already had planned on, I was going to spend $100, shoot, that's $10 in my pocket. I'm going to go to Starbucks twice. That's awesome, right? When you think about giving 10% of your overall income, that's kind of a big deal, right? That causes you pause. It's not like, oh yeah, okay, they're just asking for $10 or they're asking for whatever would be in your comfort zone. 10% is, well, that's a good chunk of your hard-earned cash. And at that amount, you better think about where it's going, right? You'll only give it to something that you feel really passionate about, that you believe in, that you trust. When we talk about tithing in the new member class, I always say tithing is about two things. The first one everybody thinks of, right? Tithing is about making the place run. Like, everybody needs money. Money makes the world go round, right? We got to turn the lights on, pay the AC bill in the summer, all that kind of stuff. That's one reason that you tithe. The second reason is much more important. The second reason is that a tithe is really about your relationship with God. And it's about your trust and how that is growing or developing or seeing setbacks in your life, right? Because you're only going to put your money into something you really care about. I always say maybe the last place that people are won over in the church is in their wallet, right? Because you're not going to give your money unless you fully trust, unless you fully believe, right? It's a statement. That's tithing. Okay, offerings are where it gets really exciting. Not that tithing isn't exciting. That's exciting. But offerings is really, really cool because that's where you get to give above and beyond a tithe. Okay? You give beyond your regular allotted amount that's coming out and you're giving back of what God has given you. But the offering comes when it's something you really, really care about. So maybe you've been watching the news and you've been seeing the Syrian refugees looking for some place to settle, some place to be, and you want to give, you want to do something. That's your offering. So actually our men's group recently did an offering here at the church. So there was a need in our children's Sunday school classes, all the kids over there right now. We have these like really shallow, tall shelves. If you've been in there when you pick up your kids, they're affixed to the wall. Don't worry. They're not going to topple down, but they're open, right? There's no doors and they're not very deep. And so it gets all messy and mixed up. And you'd really like to ideally be able to close the doors. If you have children, you know what I'm saying. Otherwise they're going to be in there all the time. Okay. So the men's group stepped up and said, all right, we are going to donate $1,000 above and beyond what we would normally give, so that we can get cabinets in the classrooms and stuff. That's an offering. That's a need they saw, and they were excited to be able to fill it. Maybe there are some things that might get you excited where you could do an offering above and beyond your regular tithe. So that's the difference between the tithe and the offering. But both of those, I think, require a great deal of trust in your relationship with God and growing in your faith. So as we talk about earn, save, and give, sometimes it feels like it is all about money and it's like a numbers game, right? So Wesley's rules, the earn, save, and give, he says, earn all you can, save all you can, and give all you can. Now, when I first started mulling that over, like in seminary, they had us studying many rules of Wesley, but when we got to the money ones, I felt like it was a pressure thing. Like, well, gosh, then it just always seems like I should be increasing. We got to get the money up. We got to get more money in, earn more money so you can save more money so you can give more money. It's a numbers game, right? Wrong. It's not about needing more money. It's about understanding what we can do with money and the ways that will change us. So Wesley doesn't say that money is the problem. In fact, money is a great tool. It can allow you to do all these fantastic things, the things that this church does or other churches do in the community that you can do with your offerings. But it's the love of money is when we get into trouble, right? Because the love of money is taking your focus off of what your initial focus was, God, being closer to God. When you're in love with the money, money becomes your focus. Money becomes the thing that you hang on to instead of hanging on to God. It becomes the obsession. And actually, the movement that Wesley was starting was a movement that talked about money in really big ways. You know, when you think about when John Wesley was a pastor, and he was a pastor in England, society was very much divided, okay? We've talked about this before, where there was a group of very rich people, and most people were way at the other end of the social, status realm, and they're way down here at the bottom. So small group of very rich people, everybody else down here at the bottom, not a whole lot in between. That sounds like it's a little familiar, but anyway, that's how people were situated. And Wesley did most of his ministry down here with the poor people. But what he was teaching was universal to all. So you can bet that Wesley taught about tithing to rich and poor people alike, because the first Methodists came on the scene with a life-giving proclamation of the gospel that offered hope for transformation in every area of human experience. So what Wesley was teaching taught people to be more responsible. It taught them to be better educated, and in turn to be more prosperous. Not more prosperous in growing their bank account, but more prosperous in the power and influence that they could have with the ways that they used their own resources. In fact, I think that Wesley's whole movement was the idea that personal piety could change society. So your own personal prayer and the ways that you were changing in your own faith, overall, one person at a time, domino effect sort of thing, could affect massive social change. So we have a little remnant of this that we use every single week in worship. It's less easy to see at this service because we sort of play with the way that this service flows. But next to you, you'll see these very strange books. They're called hymnals. If you would pick up a hymnal next to you, share with your neighbor. Seriously, pick up one of those hymnals. This one's not rhetorical. You're actually picking up the hymnal. There you go. I know. You're like, these things are weird. Turn to page 6. Page 6. There's more than songs in there, guys. Seriously. You thought pastors were just super smart. We knew this off the top of our heads. Nope. The whole order of worship is already in there. Okay, so on page 6, you see at the top it says a service of word and table. Oh my gosh, I had this seminary professor who was such a stickler for making us learn the elements of this service of word and table. And you must know the order that it goes in, because the order is important. You can see how this went over so well with me, right? But I did learn that, like one thing follows the other, and there's a flow to all these things, right? So you go down page 6, scroll down 6, scroll down 7. You got at the top of 7, you got the gospel lesson and the sermon. And then what does it say right after the sermon? Response to the word. Okay, so after you've heard the scripture and the sermon, now it is our turn as a church to respond. And what happens in this section? There's a whole lot of prayer. Turn on to page 8. At the bottom of page 8, what's in there? The offering. The offering is in the section entitled Response to the Word. So a lot of times when you get to the offering in the service, doesn't it sort of feel like halftime? Like you got through most of the service, you heard the sermon, you're like, we're just going to hear some music, we pass the plate, okay, breather, right? Actually, the offering is at the center of all of it. The offering is smack in the middle. It's like when you read a book or you watch a movie and all the tension is building, and it gets up to like the most important part of the story. That's the offering. That's when we respond. That's when we change, when we give, when something new can start. That's the offering. Kind of crazy to think of it that way, huh? Yeah, I never thought of it that way either. Not halftime, but the center of everything. Well, this First Kings scripture. Oh, you're done with that weird book. You can put it down. This First Kings scripture that we use today for stewardship, I've never used for stewardship before. I love it. Story of Solomon and how he is leading his people. And how God, in this dream, God says, whatever you ask for, I will grant it for you. And what does he ask for? He asks for wisdom. Crazy story. Because actually, the beginning of it, we skipped over. We didn't read the beginning. But the first verse goes like this. It says, Solomon made an alliance with Pharaoh. Do you remember who Pharaoh is? The enemy. He's that other guy who all the Israelites were slaves in Egypt, and he chased them out of Egypt and the Red Sea parts. That story, that Pharaoh. Hello, Pharaoh. All right. Solomon made an alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and married his daughter. He brought her to the city of David. Hello, holy place. Until he finished building his palace and the temple of the Lord. When I read that, I feel like it's foreshadowing, okay? I feel like they're building some tension here. Because what happens every time that some king or some big leader of God's people marries outside of God's people? That's right. People fall away. Bad stuff happens. They're not being good leaders. So when I read this about Solomon, I go, oh no. Solomon's going to make a bad choice here. Pretty sure this is not going to go well. Right? I get all worried about what Solomon will ask for, because then God says, Solomon, anything that you ask for, I will grant to you. I've been in that situation. Don't you feel like if God offered you something and said, okay, anything that you ask for, I will grant for you, what would be like your gut response? What would be the first thing that you ask for, like without really thinking? Win the lottery. Who said that one? That was on my list. Win the lottery? Money? What? Nice. You guys are the only crowd that has answered me all morning. Thank you very much. You might ask for a flush bank account, right? So you might go the money route. If I'm being totally honest, I might ask for a wife, like a 1950s one. The live-in housekeeper, cook, cleaner, that one. Nanny. I forgot the nanny thing. Yeah. You might ask for a new car. You might ask for a new house. You might ask for more time. Who would ask for more time? Yeah. More time, less work. Less work. Yeah. You're like, yes, preach it. Less work. These might be your gut response, right? The things that come out before you've had a chance to really think about it. So, okay, we're going to take a break from that. Remember that. Stick a pin in it. So, I wasn't with you last week because I was on vacation. Oh, yay. So this was the 1 week of the year. Paul and I have been trying to take 1 week, just us. How crazy is that? Oh my gosh. Kids go with my parents. We go on a little trip. We went to wine country in California. I know you're feeling terrible for me right now. Yeah. My favorite day was we rented bikes and we went on this ride all through wine country. I don't know why I hadn't put it together in my head, but do you know the leaves on the vines actually change colors too with fall colors? So pretty. Oh my gosh. Breathtaking, right? So we're winding our way through the country roads and stuff. And we decide we'll stop off at this winery, mostly because it says complimentary tastings. And, but it's up a hill, okay? It's like in the hills, up a hill. We earned it, y'all. Go to the top of this hill. Turns out it's the Raymond Burr Winery. Anybody know who Raymond Burr is? Who's Raymond Burr? Barry Mason. It's Perry Mason's winery, y'all. It's so cool. So we walk into the winery, and there's pictures of him all around and stuff. And of course, he died in the 90s. He had pancreatic cancer, but his domestic partner has continued the business, but he's ready to retire. So this is literally the last batch of their wine. So we buy our bottles of wine, and we brought a picnic on our bike ride. So we sit out at the picnic table, and we've got our bottle of wine and our friends that we met there with us, and we're having our picnic, and out comes the winemaker, the lady who actually makes the wine, and all her little apprentices, right? They sit down at our table and have lunch with us. It was so cool. So we're asking them all these questions about making wine, and oh my gosh, they just know everything. And they ask us, so where else have you gone, and what wineries have you tasted, and all this stuff. So we mentioned, we're like, well, we went to this one, in one of the downtown squares, and they were just all excited because they had, what's the word? Oh my gosh, you get the law so that no one else can do what you did. Patent, thank you. Just gone. So they had patented that they bottle their wines not in a regular bottle, but in a milk jug bottle, the glass ones. Yeah. So we tried the milk jug bottle wine. And so we're telling the Raymond Burr guys about this, and they're like, huh, so did you get some? Did you buy it? Well, no, it actually wasn't that good. And their response was, kind of sounds like they've lost their focus, right? It is so easy to lose your focus on those little details, or you get caught all up in this side thing over here, and you kind of forget the main goal you started with. Yeah. I feel like that happens just in life. Our main goal is that we want to be closer with God. But somehow we get caught up in the minutia of how to do that. And we lose sight of what the main goal was. Anybody ever seen the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? The old one? The first one? Okay. The better one. So you know what happens after Charlie finds his golden ticket and the shopkeeper, defends him and says, run straight home. What happens on the way home? Mr. Slugworth. Yeah, Mr. Slugworth gets him, right? And they're in this dark tunnel. And Slugworth offers him everything he could ever want. Let's see.
May I introduce myself? Arthur Slugworth, president of Slugworth Chocolates Incorporated. Now listen carefully, because I'm going to make you very rich indeed. Mr. Wonka is at this moment working on a fantastic invention, the everlasting gobstopper. If he succeeds, he'll ruin me. So all I want you to do is to get hold of just one everlasting gobstopper and bring it to me so that I can find the secret formula. Think it over, will you? A new house for your family, and good food and comfort for the rest of their lives. And don't forget the name. Everlasting gobstopper.
Oh, man. Can you feel the weight on Charlie's shoulders? Yeah. Because I think, if Charlie was offered anything that he could possibly want, his family was constantly scrapping just for food for dinner, right? Not knowing what their future held, and at the same time, caring for both sets of elderly grandparents. The fact that he might be able to ensure that his family would have food and shelter and be taken care of all of their lives, he might have jumped on that. He might have said, yes, that's my greatest desire. But we know in the end of the movie, that's not what he does, right? He doesn't give over the gobstopper to Mr. Slugworth. He sticks with what his main goal was anyway, right? His main goal was to be who his family had taught him to be, right? His family had said, no, what's most important is that we know right from wrong and that we love each other. That's the main goal. And even if you could have provided for us, but by these other means, these things that sacrificed who we really were, then that's losing sight of what the main goal was anyway. It's the same thing with Solomon. Because Solomon, I got to say, that's a lot of pressure. Same thing when he puts his hands on Charlie. I feel like Solomon had that same weight on his shoulders. He's a king. He's following David. Hello, King David was like everybody's favorite. He did wonderful, great things. And now he's got to keep that going? Surely his first response might have been, I need more power. I need more wealth. I need more land. But that's not what he asked God for. He asked God for more wisdom. Because really, God was not acting like a magic genie. He was not saying, hey, I'll grant you whatever you want. Your wish is my command, right? What God was actually doing was extending an invitation. By your response, Solomon, you can either pull further away from me or you can get closer to me. Solomon knew that he didn't need more money or wealth or power. He needed more wisdom from God, and that nothing else would suffice. So as we continue in our series over the next few weeks, Earn, Save, and Give, I challenge you a few things. One is that I challenge you to be here and worship as we talk about each one of these things every time that you're able to be here. If you're not able to be here, check the website a couple days later. You can follow up on there. I challenge you to question your own relationship with money in the small things, in the big things, and then to take those questions and talk to God about it. This same God who gives generously to all who ask. Because the question is, God is always offering whatever it is that you ask. I am here. I want to fulfill your greatest, deepest desire. What is it that you'll ask for? We continue our time of worship through the giving of tithes and offerings.